Congratulations. Good to see you here.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank you. As you know, my concerns have always gone to these issues of moral hazard and over leverage, whether it was a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. But I think until 2007, we probably could have considered some of my concerns hypothetical or philosophical. But after '07, I think that over leverage issue sort of proved a point. And looking at the headlines read, government keeps pushing mortgage guarantees as risk index rises. Here's another headline. FHFA orders GSEs to start supporting affordable housing trust funds. Now, surprisingly, the year here is not 2005, it's 2015. And so we find the FHA today engaged in this race with Fannie and Freddie to see who can more swiftly crowd out the private sector, who can assume more risk on behalf of the American taxpayer. And I would just point out that this is kind of a frightening race here because, in my view, we've seen it before. The FHFA has joined sort of a moral hazard problem here. And in December, you announced that the GSEs should begin to put more money into the coffers of housing advocacy groups through the Housing Trust Fund, established under the Housing and Economic Recovery Act. And you made this move despite the fact that Fannie and Freddie have yet to repay a lot of the money due to the American people. We can argue about whether it's $200 billion but there was a lot of money lost at the end of the day because of overleverage. So it is difficult to see how you can argue that, as it is required by law, the GSEs are financially stable enough to begin the transfer of money to housing groups. Let me show you the ratios here, and I think this was pointed out earlier. Fannie Mae leveraged at 341 to 1. Now that's a capital ratio of 0.29%. Freddie Mac, 153 to 1, and an equally concerning leverage ratio of 0.65%. You remember a decade ago, I was arguing about 100 to 1 leverage ratios. This is excessive of that. And you said earlier in this hearing that the leverage ratio is not something the statute requires you to look at when suspending allocations. I've got a different reading of that statute that I'll share with you. What the statute requires is that you shall suspend allocations, not may. The statute reads, shall suspend allocations if they would contribute to the financial instability of the enterprise or would cause the enterprise to be classified as undercapitalized. So, in reality, the statistics cited earlier, do come into play. So, Director, how can the enterprises be in this state with these leverage ratios, in one case 341 to 1, and not be deemed both financially unstable and undercapitalized? That's my question.
So, first of all, we put in place prudential stops if circumstances go back in the other direction. If we ever have a draw on the Treasury, that would automatically stop funding of the Housing Trust Fund.
Right, but it's already undercapitalized is the point.
We don't have, when Fannie and Freddie were put into conservatorship and the preferred stock purchase agreements were entered into with Treasury, that suspended the capital of Fannie and Freddie. Now, if we were building up capital, I understand exactly what you're saying, but those two criteria don't apply anymore because they are in conservatorship. Every dime is going to the taxpayers if there is a profit.
There's statutory language here that requires an end to the allocation. I think it's very straightforward, but I'll close with this. Today, I, along with many of my Republican colleagues, will reintroduce the Pay Back the Taxpayers Act, and this bill will ensure that money coming in from the GSEs will go to the taxpayers. In other words, will go to address this issue instead of being diverted to the Housing Trust Fund. But thank you, Director. Good to see you again.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the